Egypt, the Pharaohs, quest for global glory. The kings of Africa, chasing a World Cup legacy. Welcome back to Ballafrica, where we celebrate the stories, struggles, triumphs, and dreams that make African football unlike anything else on the planet. Today, our World Cup journey takes us to a nation that doesn't simply participate in African football history, a nation that helped write it, a nation whose football legacy stretches across generations, a nation whose supporters carry expectations as vast as the Nile River itself. Today, we tell the story of Egypt, the Pharaohs, seven-time African champions, continental giants, a football civilization whose influence on African rivals that of its ancient wonders on the world stage. As Egypt continues its World Cup campaign, millions of Egyptians are asking the question, can this generation finally deliver the World Cup performance that has eluded Africa's most decorated football nation? Where did this all begin? When football arrived in Egypt in the early 20th century, few could have imagined what would follow. From Cairo to Alexandria, from bustling cities to small villages, football became more than a game. It became a part of Egypt's identity, a source of pride, a source of unity, a source of hope. And over time, Egypt built one of the richest football traditions on the African continent. Long before many African nations established football reputations, Egypt was already competing on the international stage. The Pharaohs become pioneers, leaders, standard bearers for African football, the land of the pyramids. The kings of Africa. If there's one title Egypt has earned beyond any debate, is this: they are the kings of African football. No nation has won more African Cup of Nations titles. 7 times Egypt has climbed at the summit of African football. Generations of legends helped build this dynasty. Players who inspired millions. Players whose names became woven into Egyptian football folklore. The Pharaohs didn't just win, they established a culture of winning, a belief that every tournament should end with Egypt competing for the trophy. That level of expectation is both a blessing and a burden. Because generations, greatness creates pressure, and nowhere is that present felt more than in Egypt. The legends of the Pharaohs. Every great football nation is remembered through its heroes. Egypt has produced many, from Mahmoud El-Khatib to Hossein Hassan, to Ahmed Hassan, to Essam El-Hadari. And now to perhaps the most recognizable African footballer of his generation, Mohamed Salah, a player whose rise from humble beginnings to global superstardom has inspired millions, a player who has become the face of Egyptian football. But Mo's story is bigger than goals and trophies. He represents possibility, the belief that a child from an Egyptian village can become one of the world's best players. And that dream continues to inspire young Egyptians every day. There was a World Cup heartbreak. For all of Egypt's continental success, one chapter has remained frustratingly incomplete: the FIFA World Cup. Think about it. Africa's most successful football nation has rarely translated that dominance onto football's biggest stage. The Pharaohs qualified in 1934, then waited decades, qualified again in 1990, then waited once more. When they finally returned in 2018, hopes were sky high. Egypt had Salah, Egypt had momentum, Egypt had belief. But football can be cruel. An injury to Salah before the tournament changed everything. The Pharaohs exited the group stage. Another opportunity slipped away. Another dream postponed. For a nation with Egypt's pedigree, the World Cup remained unfinished business. The pain of near misses. Perhaps no football nation understands heartbreak quite like Egypt. The dramatic World Cup qualified defeat to Ghana in 2013, the devastating loss to Senegal in the 2022 World Cup playoffs, the AFCON finals defeat, the penalty shootout heartbreaks, moments that left millions in tears, moments that tested the nation's belief. Yet Egypt always returns, always rebuilds, always fights again, because football in Egypt is bigger than any single defeat. The Pharaohs may stumble, but they never disappear. the road to the FIFA World Cup. The qualification campaign demanded resilience, pressure followed every match, expectations followed every result. For Egypt, qualifying is never merely an objective, it's an obligation. The players knew what was at stake. The coaching staff knew, the supporters certainly knew. Every point mattered, every goal mattered, every moment mattered. And once again, Egypt answered the call. They secured their place among Africa's representatives at the World Cup. Not through luck, not through miracles, but through determination, experience, and belief. Here's the current generation of Egyptian superstars. While Salah remains the headline name, the Egyptian team is far more than one player. A new generation is emerging. Talented, ambitious, hungry, determined to leave their own mark on history. Players who grew up watching Egypt dominate Africa. Players who now have the opportunity to elevate Egyptian football to the global stage. And perhaps that is the most exciting aspect of this squad. The blend of experience and youth, the balance between legacy and ambition, the understanding that they carry both history and opportunity. So here are some key players to watch. Mohamed Salah, of course, the symbol of Egyptian football, a global superstar, the king of Africa, and perhaps the player carrying the greatest expectation of all. Can he lead Egypt to the World Cup breakthrough his nation so craves? Omar Mamouche, one of Egypt's most exciting attacking talents, creative, dynamic, fearless, the type of player capable of changing a game in a single moment, the type of player that is adored by Pep Guardiola. Many believe this gentleman could elevate him to another level entirely. Mustafa Mohamed, powerful, direct, clinical, a striker who strives under pressure. His goals could determine how far Egypt advances. Mohamed Abdelmonem, a defensive leader, calm under pressure, strong in critical moments. Every successful tournament run requires defensive stability. Egypt will rely heavily on him. So what should we expect of this team? Now comes the question every Egyptian supporter is asking. What should expectations be? For some nations, qualification is enough, not for Egypt. For Egypt, the objective must be higher. Advancing from the group stage should be the minimum ambition. The knockout rounds should be the target. And if momentum builds, anything becomes possible. Egypt has already started strong by pulling a tie. Because football history teaches us something important. Eventually, great football nations break through. Eventually, persistence gets rewarded. Eventually, opportunity arrives. Could this be Egypt's moment after pulling that draw with Belgium? Here's my message to the Pharaohs, the land of the pyramids. To the players representing Egypt, remember the generations who came before you. Remember the millions who believed in you. Remember the children watching from Cairo, Alexandria, Luxor, Aswan, and beyond. Remember that when you wear the Egyptian jersey, you carry more than a football. You carry history, you carry expectation, you carry hope. You represent one of Africa's greatest football traditions. And now you have the chance to add your own chapter, a chapter that future generations may remember forever. As Egypt continues this journey into the World Cup with the second match lined up, one thing is certain. The Pharaohs do not lack history. They do not lack passion. They do not lack support. What they seek now is legacy, a World Cup legacy worthy of Africa's most decorated football nation. The kings of Africa have conquered the continent. Now they chase something even greater. The conquest is big. The place among football's great global elite. Will this finally be Egypt's World Cup? Will the Pharaohs rise? The world is watching, Africa is watching, and history awaits. I am easily safe, and this is Ballafrica. Until next time, keep believing in African football, because every World Cup reminds us that dreams are never too big, and history is never finished being written, because Africa is still writing its story. Thanks.